Welcome to our lovely future humans and to those who are a part of our IHP, IG, mindset exercises, readings, and spotlights community. So these are for our paid subscribers, but we're still having samples in the lovely folder Spiritual and Personal Growth Mindset Practices and or podcast series, however it is that it's coming to your feed on YouTube. You'll know you. If you're tuning in from Spotify or other podcast platforms, you don't need to worry about it. When the paid subscriber content is paid, it's for the ones who will subscribe on Spotify and or wherever it is you tune in. So on Spotify, you'll get videos. On the others, you'll only hear me. And that's to be continued eventually as we build that community. So science explains why breaking bad habits is a hard thing to do. Breaking up is hard to, not for everybody, wait for it, and the role of mindset and neuroplasticity. So I'm going to first give you the spotlight video that gave me the capacity to think, let's talk about it the grown-up way. So being yourself the smart way, you're stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. You want to be yourself. That's if you're a whole 3-year-old heart. The ones who are not, they won't be back at IHP because they're not emotionally, mentally, physically intelligent. Because see, again, neuroplasticity, it's yours if you use it the bright way. If you use it the dark way, you don't want ventral energy, so you won't be here and you won't be intelligent. No, intelligent minds means you can emotionally uncharge your emotions, not walk around with pitchforks and mentally uncharge your thoughts and notice, oh look, my left and right, they're working together. Left and right, inside and left. You put your right foot in and your left foot in and you shake it all about. You do the hokey. It's called self-agency, by the way, and self-empowered enlightened people. Sovereignty. So we do what is called daily practices for our well-being and for funny bones inside of our bodies outside. So willpower, this is the title. It likely won't save you from your bad habits. Science explains why. I'm like, no, that's not true. But then they also talk about the habit loop explained. And then they also talk about the adult pacifier. And then I thought about my Pinocchio Island friends. So I thought, you know what? It's time we talk about this. Okay, so neuroscientists will tell you about how you can use your brain the great way. The ones who want to focus on the ones who are using it the bad way. I mean, yeah, Dr. Amy Pegan mentions how neuroception works if your body, your habitual brain, even Bessel van der Kolk, is like this. So when people are helpless inside their bodies, and that's because they're still scanning their body, self, and others to make sure they can make mommy and daddy happy because their body is unsafe to be themselves. That's why willpower and motivation won't make a difference. Thank you, Dr. Amy Pegan. And then from this video, they didn't even bother mentioning the adolescent essence, essential spark, social engagement, novelty, creative expression, which is what Dr. Daniel Siegel explains of the adolescent brain, which is from 11 to 25. So they were missing that part. And then they also described something that, let me go find my other notes from this other man who talks about the fantasy stage. So they didn't mention these. So all these aspects are important because, see, I do have willpower and I smoke cigarettes. Well, not anymore. So I'll tell you the story. And I was dating someone who thought I was addicted. Addictions have consequences but feel good. Addiction is a disease of more. Most addictive behaviors are maladaptive responses to unresolved trauma. Let's see. How can our intentions become stronger than our dysfunctional patterns? Okay, so these are all aspects. Let's go to habit though, because before we move, because some might think it's a little bit different, which it is, but the way they're treating habits, it just might as well call it an addiction. That's what I'm trying to also say. So the cue, the routine, the reward. This reward thing, those of us who own our nervous system, we don't need that kind of reward. So I was smoking because, teenagers, we get stupid. And then I became a smoker. And then I became a habitual smoker. And yeah, I used it for moments of stress, which is why when I did decide, okay, my perfect number, because I like the flavor of tobacco. And some will say, well, if you never had smoked, yeah, if I never had smoked ever, I got it. Yeah, the first time, but the tobacco flavor I enjoy. So the tobacco flavor, that's why I still smoke cigars, just not that much because you can't physically. So I knew that I couldn't get down to number 3. And that's when, thank you God, he came in as universe source always does and helps. And so I got helped. And that's why I said, okay, no more cigarettes, just cigars. And in fact, I have someone who loves me dearly who, when I was offered just one cigarette, no. And I was like, okay, I know, fine. because it is a habit. A habit is a regular tendency or practice that usually is hard to give up. Because I wasn't able to get down to the 3, I can admit to Maria's self that yes, it's a hard habit, but not because I'm addicted to the nicotine. Because of the way that the mouth and the gesture and stuff like that, and because of utilizing it to write. I'm also a writer, so to write, and then the panic attacks. And so that's where you, by knowing yourself and then having the willpower, and then with a little push, there you go. Do I miss it? No, but I miss the tobacco flavor, which is why my compromise is the cigar. Okay, so while some people say that's still stupid, I'll say, yes, we understand those words. Thank you very much. Being yourself the smart way. But that's the part of where when somebody wants to scare me with a cancer, I'll be like, the oldest lady to live smoked till she was dead. So give it a rest. And also, by the way, I'm a Reiki master. I am a mystic, spiritual, and I know all about neuroscience and neurobiology. And a lovely other lady who says, if you do exercise, eat, but your body is not yet in that healthy state, it don't matter. So when somebody wants to give you only a piece of it, wherever it is they like or don't like, and I'm an informed person, yeah, okay, bullshitter, get out of my face. Oh, by the way, pollution, anyone? Stop driving your cars, stop driving planes, stop doing all of it. Then come talk to me about secondhand smoke and everything else. And scare tactics don't work with those of us who don't like to be manipulated by liars. That's a 3-year-old talking to you all and a grown-up, and I really, really don't like when they are just using scare tactics versus explaining things. So I can explain to you why those who don't make it out of their bad habits don't. It's because they can't. As Dr. Amy Apigan points out, and the other lady, willpower ain't enough. And as Bessel van der Kolk points out too, and every other smart trauma therapist, the ones who, as their adolescent essence, began this thing to feel self-loathing, gut-wrenched, torn apart. Yeah, it's not the same for all of us because some of us don't have it. Some have Christ consciousness, Holy Spirit, Jesus, God, all of it. And above all, Maria. And not because I'm above and no, because I'm the person. If you don't believe in any of it, you don't have to. I know how my brain works, and then I know how to explain it. And so what I don't like seeing is when people are using these words, likely, not likely, and then they're tainting it like they did with cigarettes. People think your hands can fall off. That's exaggerated. They went ahead and then did the opposite with marijuana. So now everybody's smoking and doing drugs or the psychedelics. So these likes and dislikes are not helping anybody to be in the middle. In the middle means that so the foundation, we're all a body, number 1. Get your body in ventral vagal state, number 2. Yeah, now you can use the bright sides of neuroplasticity. Number 3, as determined, though, Robert Spolsky says, and he might be right. I have to say, I heard about the left brain, and I'm like, okay, this is a lot more sense. There's a man who explains very well what the left brain does. The left brain is not smarter than the right. No, the right is smarter than the left, but the left is what keeps moving forward with the day-to-day. So if you're a structurally dissociated human being, meaning you're 0-8-year-old, your non-metabolized trauma basically continues to just play on a wheelhouse, guess what I know I'm going to see? My Pinocchio friend smoking and drinking and telling me that you have to leave it alone. And then I know God and I know free will. And it's not a monster, it's not a Lucifer. It's basically people who are choosing their adult pacifiers, what these grown-ups called it. I'm like, okay, come on, really? But then again, you're right. But then again, really? Can you just not accept that some people are unhealthy because they got childhoods that broke them and they don't want to go to therapy? How about you explain it that way? Because really it comes down to that. But really, are you going to make everybody? Are you a martyr superior by any chance? Because those are codependent. Are you going to impose your will power upon others instead of explaining it? So that's why I don't like the likely, not likely, because these words are simply a way, they're adjectives to wield something called, I don't even know if it's the algorithm, I don't give a shit. I'm just thinking you're giving half of the information. Like when you meet scientists who say integration is dangerous. What? No, it's a process, it's not dangerous. But then you'll see the ones who might go all the other extremes. So the middle is the truth, because here's some of the things we know, here's others that we don't know. Oh, the body is yours, not mine, which is why you have free will, which is where spiritual come into the mix. Science, they don't like that. No, science talks to you about consciousness. When you see Thomas Campbell, he's a physicist. He talks to you about everything, the law of everything. So this part about where every one of us is a piece of energy, and that is why you have your little piece of creator, divinity, energy. You can call it your higher self, because that's where the atheist, secular people are at. So when you can purely be you, and then you can know your likes and dislikes. So you work with your left and your right too. Not that that's likes and dislikes, but I'm saying once you are the owner of yourself, Now you can be objectively aware, and actually it's very easy. So it's very easy for me to not have bad habits, but I don't actually have bad habits that go overboard because my body is more important to me. Drink wine to a certain extent, then it's like, yuck, I don't do the throwing up. I did a handful of times. I was an idiot. 45.0 version. Don't tell me about change. I every year expand. That's when you own the sense of self. Maria's not broken. She's whole. Anybody who's felt broken, I don't know. They can come tell their story as they put gold in their cracks, because that's exactly, you're beautiful and nobody's broken, but they're all fixable. I don't know how it is to not own the sense of self, my sense of self. So you don't change me, you welcome me, and I don't change you, I welcome you, and I won't shame you because God informed me of how to treat my brothers and sisters with Jesus and Holy Spirit. And also, by the way, it's not Lucifer that makes people do bad things. It's their unfortunate homes that they began life, and that began in the womb, because the last 3 months is implicit memory. So I know exactly where I can point a finger. And then my teacher, Sue Martin, showed me what happens to the 3-year-old. Their life is sucked out of them. And as she did this, I'm like, oh my God, how do we save them? Oh, don't worry. The body already knows how to save itself because it's a neurobiology. The left mode, though, has a story by the 2 years of age. So, with that being said, attachment science proves why a person can go back to the beginning and can actually, for sure, become not only stronger than their dysfunctional patterns, they can get rid of the addiction, the disease of more, or basically work with their maladaptive responses, the unhealthy self-soothing. There's an avoidant who goes on screen, tells us she's not going to do journaling, mindfulness, none of it, or therapy because everyone's fucked up. She's another one who chose to keep a bad habit, but it's not because neuroplasticity or mindset can't work for her. It's that she's using it in the dark sides of it. So she's going to shame, blame, fault, revenge. And she's going to become another one of those pitchfork people who basically, this is all the way it works. One size fits all. No, that's not actually it. Addictions have consequences but feel good. So habits in everyday life, thought, emotion, and action. I'm going to say this is a nice paper. I haven't read it. Wendy Wood and Jeffrey M. Quinn, Texas A&M University, to illustrate the differing thoughts and emotions involved in guiding habitual and non-habitual behavior. So if you are a person who has the willpower and the motivation easily, great. You're going to have an easy time noticing that which is a habit, a regular tendency or practice that is hard to give up. Are they good habits? Are they bad habits? Bad habits you're going to break because you will be smart yourself, being yourself the smart way. So you know the cue, the routine, the reward. Let me pause myself to look for another thing, because they talked about this reward. So not only your adolescent essence, essential spark, social engagement, novelty, creative expression. That adolescent 11 to 25, our brains are quite ready. Their pruning process happens, and then you check for your next 5 alloparenting. Thanks, Dr. Daniel Siegel. So the answer is that good examples of grown-ups, the ones who say you don't drink, not to have fun. If you want to enjoy as a connoisseur eventually, okay, but we all know the first cigarette was, so I'm not saying, again, I'm not an extremist. I'm just pointing out the honesty is the best policy and explanation. Shared fantasy stage. Highs are rewarding and intermittent reinforcement, more powerful, more addictive roller coaster ups and downs. So adolescent essence brain, those who don't own themselves, that's why they can easily become, it doesn't even have to be drugs. In fact, they made a whole big deal of social media. There's an answer. Neuroplasticity mindset. Use it the right way, but get those bodies in ventral vagal state. If you don't have a body that's in a securely attached, owned sense of self, it's easy. Yes, no, that's where, for me, it's easy. And so you can break habits, yes, very easily when you own your own brain and your thoughts and your emotions. But the people who don't own their embodied brain, for them it's hard to break these bad habits, and lying to them isn't going to help. We already have divisiveness due to ignorance, so I might not be perfect at all, pseudoscience woo lady. The practice is you own this first. Once it's easy, so meditative state, it's easy to wield your thoughts and your emotions, like with the 5D Mystics Skeptic Nutritionist Diary. You all know I have one. I could recognize the 3-year-old. I went to it. And that was what created my, okay, so you're being obnoxious for no other reason except for it's changing your 24-hour routine. I think that's a little petty. Of quote unquote, to my, no, I didn't use that word. I just recognized that the voice was complaining a little too much. I don't do petty because it's not petty. It's a child, and really it's not even a child, the essence of you. So we all want to have the capacity to do what we're used to. That's why they said Q and whatever the other reward. My reward is every day I'm going to treat Maria right, and then everybody else. So that's where physical health is emotional and mental health. And that's why science, when they say it's hard to break bad habits, they're putting something in people's heads. Not everybody has a hard time breaking bad habits. Some people can break them, and at the end of the day, making it a black and white thinking, so likely or not likely, isn't helpful at all. Explaining to somebody how and why, and then allowing yourself to treat people like independent, grown human beings, and again, also allowing yourself to free will. If they don't want it, we have laws for reasons. So laws are created by people who take into consideration those which are findings. When they did all the brainwashing with the cigarettes, I'm thinking they all drink alcohol to the extent of bejesus of me, a bunch of people. Drugs, you name it, marijuana, whatever. I'm not someone who does any of them, and I get teased by people. I'm a grown woman, 45.0 version again. So the reality is, I'm going to say lying is not going to help. Making it one extreme to another extreme isn't going to help. We already had the era where they did all this stuff. How about you just let people know? Well, I mean, for me, neuroscience is amazing because neuroscience, neurobiology explains your body is always going to protect you. If you have bad habits, they were picked up for reasons to fulfill, and some self-loathing, gut-wrench, torn apart. You can be a fool with a tool and still be a fool, or you can be on a fool's journey and get to the end, the world, and do Dharma, 5D Mystic here. So when you are doing spiritual and personal growth mindset practices, you notice yourself because you're on a growth. That's why I noticed that my left mode was making a big deal out of something, and I got intrigued. I didn't say, okay, I'm going to listen to it. I said, okay, that's really fascinating. You're resisting something that is good for us, which is why then I played with the word skeptic. I still am a skeptic, but science and spirituality, they come together to help you bring forth your highest and best life ever, your higher self, the highest level of spirituality. And that's why Christ consciousness, we're going to honor that in a little bit. You being your real self and you being the smart self, and the real self would never treat itself like shit. That's why we wouldn't treat others like shit. And it's called integration of brain, restorative, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating people. So when you want to understand, I'm all pseudoscience, but I do know the good scientists. And the neuroscience shows you can easily get over a habit if you are starting with one type of foot. You started with a different type of foot, the shorter end of the stick, you still can get over and become the version of yourself that is at its best. Why wouldn't you? The only ones who don't want to, well, they don't love themselves or humanity, and they could use Patrick Chan because they're hiding away with shame, because that's exactly why. So my Pinocchio friends, I'm not going to go and get rid of them because they want to lead unhealthy lifestyles. They're beautiful people, and none of us are here to tell people what they should do with their life. And explaining is good. Instead, exaggerating, to me, it's a bullshit thing. Trauma is not a story of something that happened in the past. Trauma is the imprint that all experiences leave on your soul and your body as your sensations. Thank you, Bezel van der Kolk. Furthermore, the likes and dislikes in these extremities are adaptive child part behavior. So that's a codependent type, immature. It's a martyr superior or a blame or victim. So that modality of language, it's likely or not likely, is exactly why I have no respect for bad professionals, which are all the marketers who decided to use pain points and to embellish things in certain ways. But I did learn about journalism when I was in my bachelor's years with political science. What bleeds leads. I find that disgusting. And when I saw something that was not a documentary with social media mind, I spelled out, wow, that was crap. And as I watched everybody flock off, I watched them flock back on. And I'm like, well, no shit, Sherlock, you lied and exaggerated, and you put a story with the music, and it seems like there's all disgruntled employees. So when you're on an agenda with a charge, you're not actually leading with the truth. You're leading with a bias in a very specific way. And anybody who's an intelligent mind, who can hear well, don't manipulate me, grown up, because you just tainted shit with a bunch of other shit. And that, so again, when there's a charge, there's biases. So we all have biases, preferences, likes, dislikes. You spell it out. But here's where it has to be the people who are all the scientists who get together instead. Sometimes they stay divisive. Sometimes it's just by chance. But at the same time, there's a Zen master who says that you can't be enlightenment because there's laundry. He doesn't know how to cry. And so I get to share with you, be yourself for real and the smart way, because it's amazing. And the ones who have a hard time, well, science is trying to explain. So the dark sides of neuroplasticity, yeah, that don't help anybody. I've seen it. I've seen people shutting themselves in a wheelhouse. It's not a Lucifer, it's not a monster. It's human beings who have shame, defectiveness. There's still possibility. They're armored in, but they could easily go to therapy if they wanted to. If everybody made people go to Patrick Chan to heal their childhood trauma, what do you think? You think everybody's gonna go? I saw a lady who said modern day therapists are trying to imprison you. It's not true. That's inherently enlightening or healthy and to be non-reactive, and she's got millions of followers. And there's bountiful of people who have interviewed her and others, and so the whole it's black and white doesn't work. This is why spelling out the truth, it does work, because that's why it's in the best interest of those who I'm talking to, the children that have their 3-year-old. Don't be a stupid idiot. And that's where, if people are actually going to be leading maladaptive lives, you're going to notice it because they won't stop it. But lying about it and making it seem like science knows everything or spirituality knows everything, or so again, that's I ranted a little bit too, because sometimes I wish that they would do better with their copy. So I like to keep it very straightforward, and that's because it's not nice to use the platforms in the ways that I have seen. And it's also very annoying and irritating, because that's what creates people who go out and talk with pop culture in their mouth. While I may seem pop culture, I'm not. I'm just woo-woo pseudoscience, fuck up the data, forget it, confuse it. But that's like an actual I have weaknesses with regurgitation of material, and I don't have a photographic memory. So in the meantime, this is a bit of a spotlight. We went a little bit over our 15 minutes, just so you can understand. For our paid subscribers, they will always be 5, 15. We might have, instead of 3, 7. I don't know. I'm going to decide about that. But thanks for stopping by. Again, allow yourself to remember, science is showing that, yeah, your body does great, and it does wonders with your own participation, growth mindset, and having a body in BVS. And there's a bountiful of people who help everybody who wants to get to their higher self and home and lead a good life. And moderation is key. It's very nice to be able to be grown up, since I thought all grown-ups knew about moderation. Now I know differently. So I continue to grow older. One day you'll see me on YouTube all gray, and I'm the idiot version of Maria. We'll find out.